Chapter 1. A Legend Awakens. 1,000 years ago, the shinobi world was rocked by a war that surpassed all known battles. The peoples of 5 great countries fought for control of an unimaginable power, chakra, capable of changing the fate of the entire world. At the epicenter of this chaos stood one man whose name became legendary, Naruto Uzumaki. His exploits are known to everyone. Warriors of the past said that Naruto had power comparable to gods. He subdued the nine-tailed beast, united people, and defeated greatest enemies such as Madara Uchiha and Kaguya Otsutsuki. But even his strength proved insufficient when the world was beset by a threat hidden behind the veil of time. Creatures known as the Guardians of the Void. Naruto accepted the challenge, fought the leader of the Guardians, and died in an epic battle, sealing the enemy at the cost of his life. The world has calmed down, plunging into an era of peace and prosperity. However, even after 1,000 years, Naruto's name remained alive in legend. Temples were built in his honor, and his spirit was revered as a symbol of greatness. In a cold cave, covered with snow in the far north, a strange energy has awakened. The village elder Yuki, sensing something alarming, went to the ancient altar. It was built on the site of Naruto's last fight and was rumored to hide the secret of his return. The altar shook as the air was filled with a brilliant golden light. The silhouette of a man emerged from the flames. His hair was golden and his eyes shone with immense power. It was him, the legendary Naruto Uzumaki. His body was ablaze with chakra, and his every movement echoed with power. "Where am I?" Naruto's voice sounded booming, like an echo of the ancient world. The elder, trembling with excitement, fell to his knees. He never believed that legends could come to life. But this was not a myth. Naruto himself stood in front of him. "1,000 years have passed, great Naruto," said the elder, not daring to raise his head. "The world has changed, and you have long been considered dead." Naruto frowned. He felt that the world around him was alien, devoid of familiar features. His chakra, although restored, left a feeling of emptiness. But the memories of his battles were vivid, as if he had fought the Guardians of the Void just yesterday. "Why did I come back?" he asked, examining his hands, which had regained their strength. The elder stood up, the fear in his eyes giving way to trepidation. He pointed to the sky, where a rift was slowly opening, from which dark energy was pouring out. "Great One, the Guardians have returned. We need you to save the world." Naruto looked at the rift silently. At that moment, he realized that peace was not destined for him. The world was calling him again, and he had to answer that call. A roar was heard in the distance, causing the earth to tremble. This was only the first sign of an impending threat. Naruto climbed to the top of the hill, looking up at the sky, and vowed that he would protect this new world like he once protected the old one. Chapter 2. Lost in an Alien World. Naruto stood at the top of the hill, watching the endless expanses of snow. The frosty wind burned his skin, but he barely noticed the cold. A lot of questions swarmed in his head. Where is he? What happened to the world? And why is he here again? The chakra filling his body seemed familiar, but the very ground under his feet was foreign. He slowly descended, leaving deep footprints in the fresh snow. Below, in a small village, an elder was waiting for him, still in awe from meeting the legend. "Where am I?" Naruto asked, as he carefully studied the village. Its small wooden houses looked shabby, as if they had been built in a hurry. No sign of Konoha or other familiar places. The elder bowed his head. "This is Yuki Village, deep north. Great One, you have been revered here for 1,000 years. You are a hero who saved the world from destruction." Naruto frowned as he processed what he had heard. 1,000 years? Has it really been that long since his last fight? He remembered the fire of battle, his determination to stop the Guardians of the Void at any cost. But this world, it was different. 1,000 years? He asked, clenching his fists. "How is this possible? Where is Konoha? Where are my friends?" The elder sighed heavily. "I'm afraid that the Leaf Village, like many others, have disappeared. Over the past centuries, the world has changed several times. Now it is a time of peace, but the darkness is gaining strength again. That's why you came back." The elder's words hit Naruto like a lightning strike. Disappeared? How could this happen? He closed his eyes, trying to calm down. The chakra within him raged as if the very nature of his power was trying to express anger. But that didn't change anything. He needed to understand what world he found himself in. The elder suggested that Naruto rest, but he refused. He had to find out the truth. Naruto left the village, heading deeper into the snowy plains. He didn't need maps or guides. His intuition led him forward, as if the chakra itself suggested the path. Step by step, he crossed the snowy fields until he reached the forest. Here he stopped, examining the huge trees covered with frost. This place reminded him of the ancient forest at the foot of Konoha, but everything was different. Even the air seemed heavier, saturated with an energy that he could not understand. "What kind of world is this?" he whispered, walking under the shade of the trees. "Where is my village? Where are my friends?" His mind was returning to memories. Konoha, Sasuke, Sakura, Hinata, Jiraiya. Their faces surfaced in his memory, causing a sharp pain in his chest. Naruto stopped, dropping to one knee. Everything he once knew was gone. He was alone in this strange time, but soon his thoughts were interrupted. There was the sound of footsteps ahead. Naruto froze, wary. Someone was approaching. Bending down slightly, he hid behind a tree and concentrated his chakra to sense the presence. Two people, judging by the steps. Their movement was chaotic, as if they were chasing someone. "Where is he? We can't return without loot," came a voice. He sounded harsh and angry. "He must be here somewhere," answered the other, whose voice was rougher. "If we don't find it, we ourselves will become victims." Naruto stayed in the shade of the trees, watching these people. They were dressed in strange armor made of black fabric, reinforced with metal plates. The weapons looked primitive. Long spears and strange chains. These were not shinobi that he was used to seeing, but their movements betrayed combat experience. As they passed by, Naruto came out of hiding and called out to them. "Hey, who are you, and who are you looking for?" Both men stopped abruptly, turning around. Their faces were distorted by surprise and then fear. They looked at each other as if they couldn't believe their eyes. "This is him! This is the one the legend spoke about!" whispered one of them, trembling. "Let's leave immediately!" exclaimed the other, and grabbed his comrade by the shoulder. They started to run, but Naruto instantly appeared in front of them, blocking their path. He used a minimal amount of his speed, but it was enough to catch them off guard. "Do you know me?" he asked, looking at them intently. "Answer me, who are you?" One of the men tried to hit him with a spear, but Naruto easily grabbed the shaft and broke it in one motion. The fear in the men's eyes intensified. "We are just hunters!" one of them shouted, falling to his knees. "Forgive us, Great One! We didn't mean to disturb you!" Naruto frowned. His name was still known in this world, but it seemed that people feared him more than they respected him. He released the hunters, allowing them to escape, but their words left many questions. What exactly happened in 1,000 years? And why does his return cause such fear? Naruto continued on his way until he reached a hill that overlooked the distant horizon. There, at the edge of his vision, was the city. It looked strange, combining ancient and modern elements. Towers, fortifications, but none of the symbolism of the great villages that he knew. "This is not my world," Naruto said, looking at the city. "But I will find out what happened here." The chakra inside him flared up like a flame, causing the air around him to tremble. The legend was returning. And this world will know that it has not lost its power. Chapter 3. A City Without a Past. Naruto stood on a hill, his gaze fixed on the distant city. The towers and walls, looking as if carved out of the darkness, stood out sharply against the backdrop of the snow-white plain. There were no familiar symbols or signs of the great villages to be seen. This place was alien, mysterious, and Naruto felt that it was hiding something important. The chakra inside him stirred, warning of hidden danger. He took a deep breath and moved down the slope. His steps were light but decisive. Every cell in his body was preparing to face the unknown. The city was closer than he thought. As Naruto approached, he noticed a tall gate protected by massive metal doors. They were engraved with strange symbols that he could not understand. On both sides of the gate stood guards dressed in black armor with red emblems in the shape of a snake's eye. They appeared wary, but showed no signs of fear or anxiety. "Stop!" one of them shouted as Naruto approached. "Who are you? Identify yourself and the purpose of your arrival." Naruto stopped, calmly raising his hands. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki," he said, his voice sounding confident. "I'm looking for answers." Both guards exchanged glances, their faces contorted with confusion. Then one of them stepped forward. "Uzumaki?" he repeated as if tasting the name. "Such a name has long since sunk into the past. What do you need in the city of Izair?" "Izair?" Naruto frowned. "I'm here to understand what happened to this world." The older guard studied him carefully, then nodded to his partner. "Let him through," he said. "If he's telling the truth, let him talk to the guardian of the city." The gates slowly opened, revealing a gloomy street lit by dim lamps before Naruto. The city looked strange. Narrow streets, tall buildings built of black stone, and an almost complete absence of people. Several figures quickly slipped into the alleys, hiding their faces. Walking through the streets, Naruto felt a strange pressure. The air was saturated with chakra, but it was different from what he was used to feeling. It seemed as if the city itself was alive, watching it, analyzing it. A voice interrupted his thoughts. "You're not from these places." A woman in a gray cloak appeared from the shadows. Her face was covered with a mask, but her voice sounded confident. "If you come with questions, be prepared to hear the truth, which you may not like." "Who are you?" Naruto stopped, watching her carefully. "Just a guide," she answered, waving her hand. "Follow me if you want to meet the guardian of the city." Naruto didn't argue. He followed the woman through narrow alleys and pavements. She moved quickly, and Naruto felt that she knew these streets like the back of her hand. A few minutes later, they stopped in front of a massive building that looked even more impressive than the others. Its walls were decorated with symbols reminiscent of those he had seen on the gate. "The guardian is waiting for you inside," she said, and disappeared into the shadows as if she had never existed. Walking inside, Naruto found himself in a spacious hall. On a throne carved from black stone sat a man in heavy armor. His face was hidden behind a mask with a snake eye emblem, and an aura of power hovered around him. "You came for answers," said the guardian, his voice sounding booming and impressive. "But are you ready to accept them?" Naruto took a step forward. "I'm not afraid of the truth. Who are you, and what kind of city is this?" The guardian leaned forward. "This city is the last refuge of those who survived the destruction of the world. We are the keepers of knowledge and the defenders of balance. But the balance is broken, and with your appearance, this world will change again." "What do you mean?" Naruto frowned. "What happened to the world I knew?" The guardian raised his hand and a glowing ball appeared in front of Naruto. Images flashed through him. Destroyed villages, huge battles, and rifts consuming the earth. "After your death, the world lost its support," said the guardian. "The guardians of the void have returned, and their powers have destroyed everything you protected. Great villages fell, their heritage erased from the face of the earth. Now we live in fear of their return." Naruto silently looked at the images. His heart sank in pain. Everything he fought for, everything he defended was destroyed. He closed his eyes, trying to suppress his anger. "And why am I here?" he asked, opening his eyes. "Why did they bring me back?" The guardian stood up, his armor ringing. "You are the last hope of this world. Only your power can restore balance and stop them." Naruto silently walked out of the building, his thoughts heavy. He realized that his return was not an accident. But was he ready to take on the burden of saving the world again? A world that was no longer his home. A rift appeared on the horizon again, from which darkness burst out. Naruto clenched his fists as his chakra flared. This world has not yet seen the full power that he is capable of awakening. Chapter 4. The Truth Hidden in the Darkness. Naruto stood in the main square of the city of Izair. His gaze was fixed on the horizon, where the gloomy sky was torn by a shining rift. The darkness escaping from the rift exuded an energy that seemed familiar, yet frighteningly altered. It was chakra, but not the kind he was used to. It seemed deeper, darker, saturated with alien power. Guardians of the Void, he whispered, clenching his fists. I thought we sealed them away forever. Thoughts of the last battle flashed through his head. Then, 1,000 years ago, he fought against them, risking everything. They were creatures that devoured all living things, leaving nothing but emptiness. Their leader was so strong that even his victory cost Naruto his life. But now, it seems they are back. And their power became even more frightening. They have changed, the Guardian said, approaching Naruto. His heavy steps echoed across the square. After you sealed them, the Guardians of the Void did not disappear. They adapted, found a way to penetrate deeper into the world. The rifts are just the beginning. Naruto turned to him. If they are so strong, why doesn't anyone do anything? Where are the defenders of this world? The Guardian sighed, his shoulders sagging. The great villages have disappeared. The shinobi heritage is almost destroyed. The remaining clans have lost faith in their strength and are hiding. All that's left are cities like ours, where people hide behind walls and pray that the Guardians won't find them. Hiding? Naruto clenched his fists so hard that his nails dug into his skin. They allowed these creatures to rule by fear? The Guardian did not answer. Instead, he pointed to the rift. If you want to find out the truth, you will have to go there. Rifts are associated with places where darkness is strongest. This is where you will find the answers. Naruto nodded. He wasn't going to stay away. If the Guardians were back, he had to find out how they got so powerful and find a way to stop them. He turned away from the Guardian and headed towards the city gates. The path to the rift was long. The icy wind hit his face, but Naruto walked forward without stopping. His chakra warmed his body, allowing him to ignore the cold. As he approached the rift, he felt the air around him become increasingly heavier. The darkness was so strong that even his own strength seemed weaker. When he reached the edge of the rift, a stunning view opened before him. A huge vortex of black energy was spinning, emitting lines of light that resembled chakra barriers. These lines connected the fault to the ground, as if feeding it with power. "What the?" he began, but was interrupted. A figure stepped out of the shadows. He was a tall man in a long cloak, his face hidden under a hood. The chakra coming from him was strange, almost inhuman. "You have finally arrived," said the stranger, his voice sounding muffled like an echo. "We were waiting for your return." Naruto became alert, ready to fight. "Who are you?" he asked. "Are you connected with the Guardians?" The man chuckled. "You should know, Uzumaki. We are the ones you couldn't destroy. We have changed. 1,000 years in the void has given us new strength, and now this world will become ours. I will stop you again, just like last time," Naruto replied firmly, his chakra flaring, painting the air in golden light. "You won't be able to handle it this time," said the stranger, slowly raising his hand. A stream of darkness erupted from his palm, heading towards Naruto. Naruto dodged, but the blow was so powerful that the ground around him shook. He instantly counterattacked, creating a Rasengan, which he immediately threw at the stranger. However, he raised a barrier of dark energy that absorbed the attack. "You're too predictable, Uzumaki," the enemy grinned. "Your strength no longer frightens us." Naruto gritted his teeth. This fight was not at all what he expected. His opponent was using strategy as well as strength, and his chakra seemed endless. But Naruto was not going to give up. He increased his strength by activating Sennin mode. His eyes glowed and an orange glow appeared around him. "Let's see if you can resist this," he shouted, attacking with new speed. This time, his attacks began to break through the enemy's defenses. Blow after blow, he closed the distance until he was finally a few meters away. However, the stranger did not look afraid. On the contrary, he just laughed. "You still don't understand, Uzumaki. This is just the beginning." With these words, he disappeared, dissolving into a whirlwind of darkness. Naruto remained standing on the edge of the rift, his breathing heavy. He felt that the fight was only a prelude to something more. Suddenly, the rift shone even brighter, and figures began to emerge from it. They looked like the Guardians he remembered, but their bodies had changed. They became bigger, stronger, and their chakra was even more frightening. "Great," Naruto said, preparing for another fight. If you want to destroy this world again, you will have to go through me. Chapter 5. Meeting the Unknown. Naruto stood on the edge of the rift, his gaze glued to the figures emerging from the darkness. They resembled the guardians he had seen 1,000 years ago, but now their bodies were covered in strange symbols that glowed with a crimson light. Their movements were smooth, but at the same time terrifying. It was as if every cell of them was saturated with a power that surpassed anything he knew. The first of them took a step forward, his face hidden behind a mask that looked like a predatory mouth. The creature's voice was deep and booming, as if coming from the very heart of the void. "You must be Naruto Uzumaki," the creature said, "the one who once challenged our essence, the one who dared to seal us." Naruto kept his gaze on him, his chakra flaring, ready to fight. "If you come to destroy this world again," he said, "you will meet the same end as before." The creature laughed, and its laughter echoed throughout the valley. "You are still living in old illusions," it answered. "We are no longer who we were 1,000 years ago. You are too weak to stop us." The creature's words sounded like a challenge, and Naruto did not hesitate. He gathered chakra in his hands, forming a huge Rasengan. With a powerful lunge, he rushed forward, aiming straight at the enemy. The attack was fast and accurate, but the guardian, without moving, raised his hand. A dark barrier formed around him, absorbing the Rasengan as if it were just a faint breath of wind. Naruto stepped back, trying to figure out what just happened. 1,000 years have given us time to evolve," said the guardian. "We have learned to subjugate chakra to ourselves, to change it. Your attacks are now nothing more than old tricks." Naruto clenched his fists. He was angry, but anger did not cloud his judgment. He knew that these creatures had become much stronger, but that did not mean that he would give up. He needed more information to understand their weaknesses. "Maybe I'll show you something new," he said, activating Senin mode. His eyes glowed and orange markings appeared around his body. The chakra around him flared up like a flame, ready to consume everything. He attacked again using a combination of techniques. By creating clones, he surrounded the enemy, attacking from different sides. The clones used powerful Rasengans aimed at the creature's barriers, but each time the darkness absorbed the energy. However, Naruto didn't back down. He used all his knowledge and experience to find a weak point in the enemy's defense. Suddenly, one of his clones noticed that the barrier shimmered slightly when the guardian used chakra. Naruto realized that this was his chance. He created a huge Rasen shuriken, aiming directly at the shimmering spot. With incredible speed, he launched an attack. This time, the barrier failed. The explosion was so powerful that the darkness around the rift dissipated for an instant. The creature retreated, its mask cracking, revealing an ugly face with crimson eyes exuding malice. "Not bad," hissed the guardian, "but this is just the beginning." Before Naruto could do anything, the other figures began to move. Their movements were smooth, but each of them was filled with deadly force. One of them fired a stream of dark chakra that struck Naruto in the chest, knocking him back. The blow was so powerful that he felt the air leave his lungs. He stood up, coughing, but his gaze was firm. "If you think this will stop me," he said, wiping the blood from his lips, "then you are mistaken." Naruto activated Kurama's chakra. A golden aura enveloped his body, and 9 tails appeared behind his back. He knew he couldn't afford to lose. Remembering his friends, Konoha, and everyone he loved, he felt his resolve become even stronger. "You are strong, but you will never defeat those who fight for their loved ones," he shouted, attacking with renewed vigor. His attacks became faster and more powerful. Each blow was accompanied by an explosion of chakra, which forced enemies to retreat. But Naruto knew that this was only temporary. These creatures weren't just strong, they were smart and adaptive. One of them came forward, raising his hand. A stream of darkness erupted from it, forming a blade-like weapon. Naruto dodged the blow, but his opponent moved with incredible speed. Each exchange of blows caused the ground to tremble and the air to split into pieces. At some point, the battle slowed down. Both opponents stopped, sizing each other up. Naruto was breathing heavily as his chakra began to drain. But there was something strange in the eyes of his enemy: respect and interest. "You are still strong, Uzumaki," the guardian said, lowering his weapon. But you have no idea what you're about to face. We are just pawns in this game. What are you talking about? Naruto demanded. You'll find out soon. But if you think that this is the end, the creature turned to the rift, then you are deeply mistaken. With that, the figure disappeared into a vortex of darkness, leaving Naruto alone in front of the rift as it began to widen. Naruto stared at the dark rift, feeling something awaken on the other side. His heart sank with anticipation. Who is behind this? Why did the Guardians change? And what kind of force is hidden behind this rift? Chapter 6. Fracture of Truth. Naruto stood in front of the rift, his golden chakra shimmering slightly in the cold air. Doubts raged inside him. The darkness emanating from the rift filled the space around with heavy, suffocating energy. This was more than he had ever encountered. Not only the Guardians, but the very structure of reality seemed distorted by this energy. He clenched his fists, remembering the Guardians' words. We are just pawns in this game. These words tormented his mind. Who was the real enemy then? Who was behind all this chaos? Thinking won't change anything, he told himself, trying to strengthen his resolve. If I don't go there, I'll never know the truth. The chakra inside him swirled, intensifying. Naruto stepped forward, approaching the rift. Every step he took echoed as if the earth itself was watching him. At the edge, he stopped, looking into the swirl of darkness that seemed to be calling him inside. Are you ready for this? Kurama's voice rang out in his head, harsh and authoritative. These are not just enemies, Naruto. We don't know what's there. I know, Naruto replied, clenching his fists. But I have to do it. If I don't go, who will? Kurama sighed, his growl filling Naruto's mind. You've always been so stubborn. Okay, I'm with you, but don't expect everything to be easy. Naruto took the last step and entered the rift. Everything around him went dark, and then the world seemed to turn upside down. Gravity disappeared, and he found himself in a state of weightlessness. Glittering threads of chakra, reminiscent of torn fabrics, stretched into infinity. This place was empty and full at the same time, as if it existed outside of time and space. His body began to feel pressure, as if the darkness itself was trying to penetrate inside. But Kurama's chakra flared, creating a golden barrier around him. This gave him the opportunity to move on. Suddenly, a glowing passage opened in front of him, and he felt his body being pulled inside. The chakra vortex began to spin, and a moment later, Naruto found himself in a huge room that looked like an ancient temple. The smooth walls were decorated with strange symbols that he could not understand, but they emitted powerful energy. You've finally come, a voice rang out, booming and deep. Naruto turned around, his eyes meeting the figure standing in the center of the room. It was something more than human. The creature standing in front of him could not be described in one word. It was tall, had snow-white skin, and its eyes glowed with a purple light, which Naruto noticed had a pattern reminiscent of his own rinnegan. The creature's clothing was made of something resembling living tissue that moved as if it was breathing. Who are you? Naruto asked as he prepared his chakra. Do you control the Guardians? The creature grinned, his smile icy. Do I manage? You underestimate what is happening, mortal. I am the creator of their existence. Guardians are just a tool, part of my will. So you are the one who wants to destroy this world? Naruto clenched his fists. His chakra flared brighter. Destroy? The creature repeated with slight contempt. Destruction is primitive. I strive for true excellence. This world is just a stage on the way to it. Millennia ago, you became an obstacle, but now I am here to finish what I started. Naruto looked at him, trying to gauge his opponent's strength. He knew that he was facing an enemy that was far more dangerous than anything he had faced before. I won't let you destroy this world, no matter how strong you are! He shouted, preparing an attack. Naruto rushed forward, creating a Rasen shuriken in his hands. Its speed was incredible, but the creature did not move. When the attack reached its target, it dissipated as if it had never happened. Naruto stopped, perplexed. Is this all you can do? The creature asked, and its eyes flashed. It raised its hand, and Naruto felt an invisible force throwing him back. He hit the wall, but quickly got up. You have no idea what you're dealing with, it continued. but I will give you a chance to see the truth. Suddenly, the room began to change. The walls dissolved, and Naruto saw scenes of destruction before him. Huge faults tore the earth, devouring villages. The sky became dark, and people screamed in horror. At the center of it all stood the very creature that was now in front of him. "Is this a vision of the future?" Naruto asked, clenching his fists. "This is something that is inevitable if you continue to resist," the creature answered. "I'm offering you a deal. Join me, and this world will have a chance to survive. If you refuse, everything you love will disappear." Naruto frowned. His heart was pounding, but he knew he couldn't give in. "Do you think I will believe you?" he asked. "You threaten the world and you want me to be part of it?" "Never!" The creature looked at him mockingly. "Then you will die, just like 1,000 years ago." Naruto gathered all his strength, preparing for another attack. His body was surrounded by Kurama's chakra, and his eyes shone with determination. He knew that the enemy was strong, but was not going to retreat. This world still needed him. "If I die, it will only be after I've blown you to pieces," he said, rushing forward. Chapter 7. You're not ready yet. The creature took a step forward, then a second. His movements were slow, but there was such force in them that the air around him was compressed under pressure. Naruto tensed, preparing his chakra for defense. However, when it took the third step, the world around suddenly began to change. The floor began to tremble under his feet, and the walls began to disappear, turning into a dark veil. "Did you really think you were ready to fight something that was beyond your understanding?" the creature whispered, and its voice echoed in infinity. Naruto didn't have time to answer. In one motion, the creature extended its hand, and a powerful wave of invisible energy hit it like a storm. Naruto felt his body losing control. He could not resist. The energy seemed to bind him, depriving him of the ability to use chakra. "You're not ready yet, weakling," the creature whispered, right before it turned the space around. Naruto felt himself being pushed out of the rift. The world turned upside down again, and the next moment he found himself on solid ground. Naruto fell onto the icy slope, rolling several meters down. His breathing was heavy, and his heart was beating so hard that it felt like it was about to burst out of his chest. He rose to his knees, holding his head. His mind refused to accept what had just happened. "How is this possible?" he whispered, looking at his hands. "I couldn't even move." The creature's words continued to ring in his head. "You're not ready yet, weakling." This phrase cut his pride, destroyed his confidence. Naruto felt a horror rising within him that he couldn't suppress. He who saved the world 1,000 years ago, the one who defeated the greatest enemies, was powerless. "It was not even a fight," Kurama said, his voice low and serious. "This enemy is something beyond our capabilities. We have never encountered such force. What should we do now, Kurama?" Naruto tried to find answers. His fingers clenched into fists, and a shadow of fear appeared in his eyes. If he told the truth, if I'm really not ready, then the world will end. I can't save him. Suddenly, a light flashed in front of him. This was the same rift from which he had just been thrown. But now he did not emit power. On the contrary, his radiance faded, as if a rift was closing. Naruto stood up, clenching his fists, but didn't take a step forward. His body, his mind, everything resisted returning. "You know you can't go back there now," Kurama said. "If you try, he'll just kill us." These words, although true, only increased Naruto's despair. He, the one who always found a way, the one who always protected his friends and the world, now found himself powerless. And this feeling slowly consumed him. He looked at the horizon. The world seemed calm, but fear was bursting inside him. Naruto understood that the enemy would not stop. The one who called himself the creator of the Guardians will not leave this world alone. He felt a huge burden of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. "I can't give up," he said out loud, trying to regain his confidence. "But how? How can I defeat him?" Kurama sighed heavily. "The strength we have is not enough. You saw it yourself. This enemy is unlike any you have fought. But we have time. If he says you're not ready, it means he doesn't plan to attack immediately. We must use this time to find a way to become stronger. Getting stronger? Naruto repeated the words as if tasting them. But where should I go? Who can help me? Naruto remembered everything he had learned since his awakening. Ancient forces, disappeared villages, secrets that the Guardians hide. This world was full of answers that he had not yet found. But where to look for them? Suddenly, an image of the ancient temple he had seen in his vision flashed through his mind. There, among the ruins, traces could remain that would help understand the nature of this new threat. I must find this temple, he said decisively, rising to his feet. If there is anything out there that can give me power or answers, I have to find it. Kurama nodded. It's better than just waiting to die. But be careful. This enemy is not just watching. He is playing a game in which you are still just a piece on the board. Naruto began to move, heading towards the place he had seen in his visions. His steps were heavy, but a new determination burned in his heart. He knew he had no right to give up. This world depended on him, even if he felt that his strength was not enough. The creature's words still echoed in his head, but now they became not only a reminder of his weakness, but also a challenge. Naruto gritted his teeth, looking forward. If I'm not ready yet, he said, looking at the horizon, then I will do everything to become ready. Chapter 8. Finding the Ancient Temple. The sun barely rose above the horizon, painting the snowy plains in a dull orange light. Naruto moved forward, feeling how every step felt like heaviness in his body. The cold wind chilled him to the bone, but he did not pay attention. The goal was clear. To find the ancient temple he had seen in his visions, and figure out how to defeat an enemy that seemed invincible. Are you sure this temple even exists? Kurama's voice rang out in his mind, harsh but not hostile. Perhaps this is just a trick to distract us. It exists, Naruto replied, his gaze focused on the horizon line. I feel like there's something important there. If we want to have any chance against this enemy, we need to find it. Kurama sighed heavily. I hope you're right. But be careful, we don't know how much time we have. The path to the temple was not easy. Naruto crossed endless plains, made his way through frozen forests, and climbed snow-covered hills. He used his shinobi skills to navigate the unknown terrain, but the feeling that he was being watched did not leave him. Every night, when he stopped for a short rest, he felt something lurking in the shadows. The darkness seemed to follow him, barely visible but ever present. One day, while lighting a small fire, he noticed strange footprints in the snow not far from his camp. The tracks were too deep and large to be human. They're watching me, he said out loud, clenching his fists. But why don't they attack? Because you're not a threat yet, Kurama suggested. They are playing with you. This enemy loves to manipulate. He makes you feel weak so that you will be broken when the time comes. Then let them keep watching, Naruto said, fire blazing in his eyes. I will prove them wrong. On the third day of his journey, Naruto finally saw what he was looking for. On the distant horizon, amid a snow-white landscape, towered stone spires reaching high into the sky. The place resembled the ruins of an ancient temple, but was covered in ice and snow, as if nature was trying to hide it. As he came closer, he saw that the walls of the temple were decorated with strange symbols. These signs seemed familiar, but their meaning eluded him. However, one detail stood out. The symbols emitted a faint glow, as if reacting to his presence. It looks like we're there, Naruto said, cautiously approaching the entrance. Now we just have to figure out what to look for here. It was dark and cold inside the temple. Tall columns supported the vaulted ceiling, and frozen tapestries hung on the walls. In the center of the main hall there was an altar, around which massive statues were lined up. Their faces were contorted into expressions of horror or pain, and it filled Naruto with anxiety. Approaching the altar, he noticed a strange object on it, a round disc made of black stone. The same symbols that he saw outside glowed on its surface. As Naruto reached out to touch him, Kurama suddenly growled in warning. Wait, he said. We don't know what it is. We don't have time to think, Naruto replied, his fingers lightly touching the disc. If there are answers here, I will find them. As soon as he touched the disc, a flash of light filled the room. Naruto felt his mind begin to sink into a deep abyss. Images began to flash before his eyes. destroyed cities, creatures created from darkness, and finally, the face of the creature that threw him out of the rift. "This is it," he whispered, feeling the images becoming clearer. Suddenly, the world around him changed. He found himself in a different place, a desert plain, shrouded in darkness. The same creature stood in front of him, but now it was surrounded by several figures that looked like guardians. It looked at Naruto, and its eyes flashed. "You dared to look into my secrets," it said, and its voice was like thunder. "Do you really think this will help you? Your efforts are pathetic." "I'm here to find a way to stop you," Naruto shouted, clenching his fists. "I won't let you destroy this world." The creature laughed, its laughter cold and cruel. "You don't understand anything," it said. "This world is just dust and infinity. I am the creator of a new order, and you cannot stop me." Suddenly, the vision disappeared, and Naruto found himself back in the temple. He breathed heavily, feeling his heart pounding. However, now he knew more. This enemy was truly behind everything. But did he have any chance against such a force? Kurama remained silent, but Naruto knew they were both thinking the same thing. Time was running out, and they had to find a way to use the information they had gained. "I won't give up," Naruto whispered, looking at the disc that was now no longer glowing. "Even if he is stronger, even if I am not prepared enough, I will find a way." Chapter 8. Finding the Ancient Temple. The sun barely rose above the horizon, painting the snowy plains in a dull orange light. Naruto moved forward, feeling how every step felt like heaviness in his body. The cold wind chilled him to the bone, but he did not pay attention. The goal was clear: to find the ancient temple he had seen in his visions and figure out how to defeat an enemy that seemed invincible. "Are you sure this temple even exists?" Kurama's voice rang out in his mind, harsh but not hostile. "Perhaps this is just a trick to distract us." "It exists," Naruto replied, his gaze focused on the horizon line. "I feel like there's something important there. If we want to have any chance against this enemy, we need to find it." Kurama sighed heavily. "I hope you're right, but be careful. We don't know how much time we have." The path to the temple was not easy. Naruto crossed endless plains, made his way through frozen forests, and climbed snow-covered hills. He used his shinobi skills to navigate the unknown terrain, but the feeling that he was being watched did not leave him. Every night, when he stopped for a short rest, he felt something lurking in the shadows. The darkness seemed to follow him, barely visible, but ever present. One day, while lighting a small fire, he noticed strange footprints in the snow not far from his camp. The tracks were too deep and large to be human. "They're watching me," he said out loud, clenching his fists. "But why don't they attack?" "Because you're not a threat yet," Kurama suggested. "They are playing with you. This enemy loves to manipulate. He makes you feel weak so that you will be broken when the time comes." "Then let them keep watching," Naruto said, fire blazing in his eyes. "I will prove them wrong." On the third day of his journey, Naruto finally saw what he was looking for. On the distant horizon, amid a snow-white landscape, towered stone spires reaching high into the sky. The place resembled the ruins of an ancient temple, but was covered in ice and snow, as if nature was trying to hide it. As he came closer, he saw that the walls of the temple were decorated with strange symbols. These signs seemed familiar, but their meaning eluded him. However, one detail stood out. The symbols emitted a faint glow, as if reacting to his presence. "It looks like we're there," Naruto said, cautiously approaching the entrance. "Now we just have to figure out what to look for here." It was dark and cold inside the temple. Tall columns supported the vaulted ceiling, and frozen tapestries hung on the walls. In the center of the main hall, there was an altar, around which massive statues were lined up. Their faces were contorted into expressions of horror or pain, and it filled Naruto with anxiety. Approaching the altar, he noticed a strange object on it, a round disc made of black stone. The same symbols that he saw outside glowed on its surface. As Naruto reached out to touch him, Kurama suddenly growled in warning. "Wait," he said. "We don't know what it is." "We don't have time to think," Naruto replied, his fingers lightly touching the disc. "If there are answers here, I will find them." As soon as he touched the disc, a flash of light filled the room. Naruto felt his mind begin to sink into a deep abyss. Images began to flash before his eyes. Destroyed cities, creatures created from darkness, and finally, the face of the creature that threw him out of the rift. "This is it," he whispered, feeling the images becoming clearer. Suddenly, the world around him changed. He found himself in a different place, a desert plain shrouded in darkness. The same creature stood in front of him, but now it was surrounded by several figures that looked like guardians. It looked at Naruto, and its eyes flashed. "You dared to look into my secrets," it said, and its voice was like thunder. "Do you really think this will help you? Your efforts are pathetic." "I'm here to find a way to stop you," Naruto shouted, clenching his fists. "I won't let you destroy this world." The creature laughed, its laughter cold and cruel. "You don't understand anything," it said. "This world is just dust in infinity. I am the creator of a new order and you cannot stop me." Suddenly, the vision disappeared, and Naruto found himself back in the temple. He breathed heavily, feeling his heart pounding. However, now he knew more. This enemy was truly behind everything. But did he have any chance against such a force? Kurama remained silent, but Naruto knew they were both thinking the same thing. Time was running out, and they had to find a way to use the information they had gained. "I won't give up," Naruto whispered, looking at the disc that was now no longer glowing. "Even if he is stronger, even if I'm not prepared enough, I will find a way." Chapter 9. Knowledge and Chaos. Naruto knelt heavily in front of the temple altar. His breathing was ragged and his heart was pounding. He felt time compressing around him like a noose that was about to tighten. The darkness of the enemy, his plans so grandiose that they could not even be imagined, threatened to destroy everything he fought for. "Perfect order," he muttered, looking at the disc, which now lay silent. "They want to turn this world into emptiness, to subject it to their laws. But how? How to stop them?" "This enemy doesn't think like those we fought before," Kurama said. His voice sounded deeper than usual, full of thoughts. "He doesn't just destroy for the sake of destruction. He wants to change the very essence of the world. But what can we do?" Naruto closed his eyes, feeling his mind drown in worry. "I don't have enough strength to just defeat him. Even my chakra seems useless against him." "The answer may be here," Kurama replied, pointing to the symbols covering the walls. "This temple was built for a purpose. There may be a hint here that will help you." Naruto stood up slowly, looking around the room. He illuminated it with his chakra, causing the walls to shimmer. The symbols began to move, forming lines and patterns that resembled strange writing. A holographic figure appeared in the center of the hall, tall and majestic, with eyes glowing like the rinnegan. "If you see this, it means the world is on the brink of destruction again," the figure said, its voice smooth but powerful. "This temple is the last bastion against darkness. Here lies knowledge that can save everything, but it will come at a high price." "What kind of knowledge is this?" Naruto shouted. "How should I use it?" The figure raised his hand, pointing towards the altar. "The power that can resist the creator of darkness already exists within you. But to awaken it, you must connect your heart with the very nature of this power." "Are you ready to give everything for this world?" "Give everything away?" Naruto repeated, feeling a chill down his spine. "What does it mean?" The figure disappeared, leaving only a glowing symbol on the altar. Naruto came closer and touched him. As soon as his fingers touched the surface, a flash of light illuminated everything around him. His mind was transported to another place. He found himself in an endless space filled with energy. In front of him stood a new figure, similar to the first, but her aura was even more powerful. It was a being made of pure energy, and its voice rang directly into Naruto's mind. "The power the temple spoke of is the power of creation," said the creature. "But you can't get it without sacrificing what is dear to you." "The power of creation?" Naruto frowned. "Is this some kind of Rikudo power?" "No," the creature answered. "It's not just chakra. This is the ability to influence the very fabric of reality. She may give you a chance to face the enemy, but if you cannot handle her, she will destroy you. Naruto thought about it. He understood that this was an opportunity, but he also realized that such power could not be controlled easily. However, he had no other choice. I will accept it, he said firmly. If this is the only way to save the world, I'm willing to take the risk. As soon as he said these words, the energy around him exploded. He felt his body begin to transform, a new power awakening within him. But with this power came pain. Every cell of his body burned, as if falling apart and being reassembled. Hold on, Naruto! Kurama shouted. Don't let this energy take over you! Naruto clenched his teeth, trying to maintain control. He knew that if he gave in, he would lose himself forever. But he also felt that this power gave him more than just chakra. She opened up a new view of reality for him. When the transformation ended, Naruto fell to his knees. His body was trembling and his heart was pounding as if it was about to break out. But there was something new inside him now. He felt how chakra became not only his instrument, but also part of the world itself. You have become stronger, Kurama said, his voice sounding surprised. But this power, it's incredible. Naruto stood up, looking at his hands. They glowed with a faint golden light, and his eyes took on a strange pattern that he had never seen before. He knew that this was not just a new power, but a new responsibility. Now I have a chance, he said. But this may not be enough. The enemy is still stronger. Naruto barely had time to recover when the temple began to shake. The darkness that had been watching him all this time began to penetrate inside. Guardian-like creatures emerged from the shadows, their eyes burning with hatred. They found us, Kurama said. Get ready for battle. Naruto stood up, his eyes flashing. New power flowed through his body and he was ready to use it. He knew it was just the beginning, but he was determined. If they want to stop me, let them try, he said, his voice sounding firm. I won't let them destroy this world. Chapter 10. Memories of the Past. Naruto stood in the middle of the destroyed temple hall, trying to catch his breath. After his recent encounter with creatures born of darkness, he realized that his new strength was insufficient for the upcoming battle. The enemy was not just strong. He was a strategist who planned everything down to the smallest detail. And now, Naruto acutely felt his loneliness. His gaze slid over the ancient symbols carved into the walls. They reminded us of something distant, almost forgotten. He tried to concentrate, searching his memory for clues that might help. I have to remember something, he whispered, closing his eyes. Scenes from the past flashed before him, his friends, battles, sacrifices. Every victory was paid for in blood, but he was never alone. His mentors, allies, even enemies helped him become stronger. And then he remembered one person whose influence on his life was unsurpassed. Hagoromo, Naruto whispered, his heart beating faster. Sage of the Six Paths. If anyone can help me now, it is him. Kurama snorted in his mind. Hagoromo left this world a long time ago, he said. Are you sure you can reach him? I'm not sure, Naruto admitted, but I have no other choice. If he could once give me the power to defeat Kaguya, maybe he can help me now. Naruto sat in the lotus position in front of the altar. He took a deep breath, closing his eyes and focusing on the chakra coursing through his body. His mind went deep into meditation. The world around him disappeared, and he felt his consciousness sink into a deep void. Hagoromo, he began, his voice firm and insistent. If you can hear me, please answer. I cannot fight this enemy alone. I need your advice, your strength. There was no sound around him, only silence. Time seemed endless, but Naruto didn't give up. He continued to call, drawing out his chakra so that its waves would spread beyond this world. Sage of the Six Paths, he shouted. You said that the world will always need the strength of those who are ready to protect it. If this is true, then show up. Suddenly, something changed. The air around Naruto became thick, and a faint light appeared in his mind. He opened his eyes and saw a figure forming in front of him. A tall man with a long gray beard and rinnegan eyes appeared surrounded by a soft golden glow. It was Hagoromo. You called me, Naruto, said the Sage of Six Paths, his voice soft but filled with power. Naruto felt the tension in his heart ease. He stood up, but then dropped to one knee, bowing his head. I'm glad to see you, he said. The world is again on the verge of destruction. This time, the enemy is stronger than anything I have ever encountered. Hagoromo looked at him intently, his eyes radiating calm. I know, he said. The darkness you face is beyond ordinary understanding. She seeks to destroy not only this world, but the very essence of life. Then tell me, how can I stop her? Naruto looked up. I have the power I got here, but it's not enough. I don't know how to fight someone who seems all-powerful. Hagoromo came closer, his figure radiating warmth and calm. You already have everything you need to win, he said. But your strength must be directed correctly. The enemy you are fighting feeds on fear and doubt. If you want to win, you must find harmony within yourself. Harmony? Naruto frowned. I don't have time to think about harmony. This enemy won't give me a chance. Hagoromo shook his head. That's why you have to be faster and smarter. Remember, Naruto, strength is not just chakra power. It's believing in yourself and those who stand behind you. Naruto thought about it. His mind went back to the memories of his friends, of Sakura, Sasuke, Kakashi, all those who had helped him along his journey. He felt their faith in him nourish his heart. I understand, he said, standing up. I must not only fight, but also believe that I can win, even if the enemy seems stronger. Hagoromo smiled. Now you sound like a real hero. But remember, this path will be dangerous. The darkness will not stop until it consumes everything. You must be prepared to make sacrifices. Naruto nodded, feeling his resolve strengthen. Thank you, Hagoromo. I won't let you down. The Sage of Six Paths stepped back as his figure began to disappear. The world will always need people like you, Naruto. Don't forget that you are not alone. With that, Hagoromo disappeared, leaving Naruto alone in the temple. But now, a new confidence burned in his heart. He knew that the path would be difficult, but he would not give up. Naruto stood up, his eyes shining with new determination. Okay, darkness, he said, clenching his fists. If you think I'll give up, you're wrong. I will find a way to defeat you. Kurama snorted, but his voice sounded approving. That's what I understand, Naruto. We will cope, as always. Chapter 11. Conversation with Kurama. Naruto sat on the ruined altar of the temple, deep in thought. The silence around him seemed deafening, but inside his mind there was a voice that he was used to hearing. Kurama, as always, was nearby, and his presence now seemed especially significant. You look like you've seen a nightmare, Kurama said, his voice laced with a slight hint of mockery. Although, to be honest, this whole place looks like one big nightmare. Naruto raised his head and closed his eyes, sinking into consciousness to enter a space where he could see Kurama. The golden bars of the Nine-Tails cage reappeared around him, but now they looked more like a symbolic reminder of the past than a real barrier. Kurama, Naruto began, his voice serious. Do you really think this place is the future? That it's been 1,000 years since I last fought? Kurama frowned, his huge amber eyes narrowed. You saw it yourself, Naruto. This world is not like the one you defended. Everything you knew is gone. Even chakra feels different here. This is not just another world. This is another era. Naruto sighed heavily, lowering his head. I just can't accept it. Everyone who was with me, my friends, my teachers, are they dead? This is the truth you must accept, Kurama replied, his voice softer than usual. But that doesn't mean your fight is over. If you're here, it's for a reason. Naruto looked up, his gaze filled with doubt. But how can we stop this creature? It's so strong that I couldn't even hit it. It threw me out of the rift as if I were nothing. Kurama snorted. You've always been stubborn, but now you're starting to sound like a weakling. This doesn't sound like you. I'm not a weakling, Naruto retorted, clenching his fists. I don't know what to do. This enemy is different. He doesn't just destroy. He wants to create something new, to subjugate the whole world to his will. Kurama bowed his head, his bushy tail moving slowly from side to side. You are right. This enemy is unlike any we have fought. But that doesn't mean he can't be defeated. Everyone has weaknesses. You just need to understand which ones. Naruto thought as he looked at his tailed partner. If this is really the future, then maybe there is something in this world that we don't know. Something that can help us? Perhaps, Kurama agreed, but I don't think this enemy will give us time to search. He feels that you are beginning to understand his intentions. He won't leave us alone. Then what can we do? Naruto asked, his voice sounding desperate. We have strength, but it's not enough. Even the new energy I received in the temple seems weak in comparison. Kurama grinned, his fangs flashing. You've never been one to give up, Naruto. You always found a way, even when everything seemed impossible. This time will be no exception. But to win, you need to look beyond your strength. You need to understand his weaknesses and use them against him. Naruto frowned as he thought about Kurama's words. Are you saying that we need more information about him? Exactly, Kurama nodded. This enemy is not just strength, he is intelligence. To win, you need to understand how he thinks. Find what makes him tick and use it. Naruto looked at Kurama, his eyes lighting up with determination. You are right. If we don't know how to defeat him, then we need to find out. This temple may just be the beginning. There may be other places where we can find answers. Kurama nodded, but his gaze remained serious. But remember, Naruto, we don't have much time. This enemy already knows what you are looking for. He can strike at any moment. Naruto stood up, his gaze filled with determination. Then we won't waste a second. If there is a chance to find this enemy's weakness, we will find it. And I will do anything to stop him, even if I have to sacrifice everything. Kurama chuckled, his voice becoming harsh again. This is another matter. Now you sound like the Naruto I know. Naruto nodded, his fists clenching. This world does not yet know that its salvation has already begun. We will find a way, Kurama. Together. Chapter 12, Journey to Truth. Naruto stood on the edge of a snowy plain. Behind him were the ruins of an ancient temple, which for a time became a refuge for him. His eyes burned with determination, and a new strength was felt inside. He knew time was short, but he needed to keep moving forward. The darkness will give him no respite. So where to now? Kurama's voice rang out, filled with a mixture of impatience and caution. We can't just wander around looking for answers. You need to know where to go. Naruto took a deep breath, his gaze darting into the distance. There were symbols in the temple, he said, remembering what he saw on the walls. They looked like a map. I think it was a pointer to the next place. Perhaps we will find more information there. Kurama snorted. What if it's a trap? This enemy is clearly watching us and can manipulate what you see. If it's a trap, then we'll just deal with it, Naruto answered confidently, his voice sounding firm. We have no other choice. The path forward was difficult. The snowy plains gave way to a dead forest, where the air seemed heavy and the light broke through the dense cover of gray clouds. Naruto felt the darkness around him become thicker, as if the enemy was watching his every move. Do you feel it? Kurama asked. This energy, it is similar to what we saw in the rift. Darkness not only follows us, it is absorbed into this world. Yes, Naruto nodded, looking around. This world has not just changed, he's infected, and it seems that the further we go, the stronger this is felt. After several hours of travel, Naruto reached a valley where ancient ruins towered. The columns of black stone, scarred by time, were covered with the same symbols he had seen in the temple. The air here was saturated with a strange energy that made his chakra tremble. Here it is, he said, coming closer. We will find something important here. Kurama carefully studied everything around him. Be alert, he warned. This place is saturated with darkness. If the enemy wants to attack, he will do it here. Naruto entered the center of the ruins. Here, among the rubble, stood a stone pedestal covered with intricate designs. As he got closer, the symbols began to glow and a holographic figure rose from the pedestal. It was an ancient elder with eyes reminiscent of the rinnegan. Who are you? Naruto asked, preparing for any turn of events. I am the keeper of the knowledge of this place, the figure answered, its voice deep and ancient. If you are here, it means you are looking for a way to resist the darkness. Yes, Naruto said firmly. Tell me what I need to know to stop her. The elder looked at him. His eyes seemed to read the soul. The darkness you fight is not just power. It feeds on fear, doubt, and disagreement. The more you fight with yourself, the stronger it becomes. We already understood that, Kurama intervened. But how can we stop her? Naruto can't just stop being a person with emotions. The elder smiled slightly. Darkness has a source. To destroy it, you need to find the root, the force that allows it to exist. This root is not located here, but in a place called the Eclipse of Souls. Eclipse of Souls? Naruto repeated. What is this? This is the place where reality comes into contact with emptiness, the elder explained. But it's not easy to get there. You need to go through the barriers that guard this place. Where can I find him? Naruto took a step forward, his eyes burning with determination. This place is hidden in the very depths of the faults, answered the elder. But be careful. The closer you get, the stronger the darkness will become. She will try to break you. Suddenly, the light around began to fade. The old man's figure flickered and disappeared, and the ruins shook. Creatures reminiscent of those Naruto had seen before began to appear from the shadows. Their bodies were covered in black energy, and their eyes glowed blood red. It seems they have arrived, Kurama said. Well, Naruto, are you ready? Always ready, Naruto replied, activating his Sennin mode. His eyes glowed and Kurama's chakra surrounded his body. The creatures attacked simultaneously, their movements fast and chaotic. But Naruto was faster. He created dozens of shadow clones, each using their own abilities to distract his enemies. The orange glow of his chakra illuminated the dark place, filling it with the sounds of impacts and explosions. The battle did not last long. Naruto used the new Rasengan, infused with the energy he gained from the temple, to destroy the last of his enemies. When everything calmed down, he dropped to one knee, breathing heavily. That was just the beginning, Kurama said. They were checking you. But now that you know where to go, the enemy will not give you a break. Naruto nodded, his gaze turning to the north. If the Eclipse of Souls is where we will find the answers, then that's where we're going. No matter what awaits us. Chapter 13, Path Through Rifts. Naruto walked along a winding path leading to one of the rifts. His heart sank with anticipation. Every cell of his body felt that the enemy was watching him, preparing to strike. Kurama, sitting in his space inside Naruto, was silent. But his tense presence spoke more than words. Do you feel it? Naruto finally spoke, looking into the distance where the sky was torn apart by a black whirlwind of energy. Yes, Kurama replied, his voice sounding hoarse. The darkness is getting thicker. They know where we're going. This place, the Eclipse of Souls, is hidden for a reason. They won't let us get to him without a fight. Naruto nodded, his gaze becoming focused. Let them try to stop us. We've already been through too much to stop now. The rift they were heading towards was massive, like a cut in the fabric of the world itself. Its edges glowed with a dim purple light, and swirls of darkness bubbled within. The energy around him was so dense that Naruto felt his chakra begin to resist, as if trying to protect itself from external pressure. This place is really scary, he admitted. But if this is our path, then I'm ready. Don't forget that anything can be inside, Kurama warned. They know we're coming here. This is their territory. Naruto stopped at the very edge of the rift. His eyes glowed with determination, and chakra gradually began to envelop his body, creating a golden aura. If this is their territory, then it's time to destroy it, he said, taking a step forward. As soon as he entered the rift, everything around him changed. The world plunged into darkness, and the air became thick and heavy, as if saturated with poison. A huge labyrinth opened before him, made up of moving walls that seemed to live their own life. This is not just a passage, Kurama noted. It's a trap. They want to confuse us. Then we have to move quickly, Naruto replied, as he began to run down the winding corridors. His eyes carefully monitored changes in the environment, preparing for any attack. The darkness was not long in coming. Creatures resembling shadows began to emerge from the walls. Their movements were chaotic, and their bodies seemed made from the rift itself. They attacked from different directions, their claws trying to break through the chakra surrounding Naruto. Are you ready, Kurama? Naruto shouted as he created shadow clones to distract his enemies. Always ready, Kurama replied as his chakra flared, strengthening the barrier around Naruto. Show them who's boss here. Naruto activated his Sennin mode. His eyes glowed and his chakra became even more powerful. He created a huge Rasengan, saturated with Kurama's energy, and threw it into the crowd of shadows. The explosion was so strong that the walls of the labyrinth shook, but the shadows did not retreat. They continued to attack, surrounding Naruto from all sides. He dodged another strike, then created several more Rasengans that struck nearby enemies. Despite the pressure, he felt his strength growing. When the battle ended, Naruto was breathing heavily as he stood among the rubble of the shadows. The labyrinth seemed endless, but he had no intention of stopping. "They just tested us," Kurama said. "That wasn't their main strength." "I know," Naruto replied, his voice sounding firm. "But we have proven that we are ready for the next challenge." The labyrinth began to change. The walls moved faster, creating new paths and blocking old ones. Naruto felt the space around him become more and more hostile. It was as if the place itself was trying to break him. "This is getting annoying," he muttered, trying to maintain his speed. "Focus," Kurama said. "Don't let them play with your mind. If you lose control, they win." After some time, Naruto came out into a large chamber that seemed to be the center of the maze. Everything here was saturated with darkness, and powerful chakra was felt in the air. On the opposite side of the cell stood a figure emitting ominous energy. "You have finally arrived," the figure said, its voice deep and frightening. "Do you think you can defeat us? Your journey ends here." Naruto clenched his fists as his chakra flared. "That's what you think," he said, preparing for battle. "But I will not stop until I find the Eclipse of Souls and put an end to this darkness." The figure laughed, its laughter echoing throughout the room. "We'll see, Uzumaki, let's see." Chapter 14, Test of Strength. In a huge hall, saturated with thick darkness, Naruto stood in front of a figure that radiated incredible power. This creature was the embodiment of chaos. Its eyes glowed blood red, and its body was covered in shimmering patterns that resembled living symbols. Every breath of the enemy was filled with energy that suppressed the very space around him. "Do you really think you can go any further?" The creature's voice rang out, deep and ominous. "Your efforts are useless. You're just a pathetic figure in a game you don't even understand." Naruto clenched his fists as his chakra glowed with a golden light, creating a powerful field around him. "If you think that I will retreat, you are mistaken," he said firmly. "I will go through you no matter the cost." The creature laughed, and its laughter echoed throughout the hall. "Then let me show you what real power is." Suddenly, the darkness around the creature began to thicken, spinning into a powerful whirlwind. The space shook, and the energy shook the hall. With every second, the figure became larger, its body transformed. Claws, wings, tail, all this created a terrifying image of a monster made of darkness itself. "This is not just an enemy," Kurama said in Naruto's mind. "This is something ancient. It is not like ordinary opponents." "So I'll have to be stronger than I was before," Naruto replied, his eyes glowing as Kurama's chakra began to intertwine with his own. The monster attacked first. A powerful strike of claws tore through the air, heading straight for Naruto. He managed to dodge, but the wave of energy caused by the blow threw him back. Naruto rolled on the ground, but instantly stood up, activating his Sennin mode. "You're fast, but that won't save you," the creature said, rushing forward. Naruto created several shadow clones to distract the enemy. The clones attacked simultaneously, creating powerful Rasengans. However, the creature simply absorbed them as if the attacks were nothing more than a weak wind. "Your tricks are useless," the monster said, his voice sounding contemptuous. Naruto frowned. He realized that the enemy was not only strong, but also had the ability to adapt. He needed something more to break through the monster's defenses. "Kurama, do we have any ideas?" Naruto asked, dodging another blow. "We need a combination," Kurama replied. "Use the energy you received in the temple along with my chakra. This is our only chance." Naruto nodded. His chakra flared, mixing with the golden energy he had gained in the ancient temple. His hands began to form a new Rasengan that glowed brighter than anything he had created before. "Let's see if you can stand it!" Naruto shouted, rushing forward. The monster tried to dodge, but Naruto was faster. His attack hit the center of the creature's body, causing a massive explosion. The energy tore through the darkness, and the hall was momentarily illuminated with bright light. When the dust settled, Naruto stood in the middle of the ruined hall. His breathing was heavy, but his eyes burned with determination. However, the monster did not disappear. His body was damaged, but it quickly recovered. "Not bad," the creature said, its voice hoarse but full of anger. "But this is not enough. You underestimate my strength." The monster raised his hand, and a sphere of pure darkness began to form around him. This energy was so powerful that the space around Naruto began to shrink, threatening to crush him. "Naruto, don't wait!" Kurama shouted. "This attack will destroy us if we don't do something right now!" "I know," Naruto replied, clenching his fists. His chakra flared even brighter, and his eyes shone with new energy. "I won't let this creature win." He began to form a giant Rasen shuriken, mixing it with Kurama's energy and the new power gained from the temple. His attack became so powerful that the darkness around him began to dissipate. "This is for you," Naruto said, throwing an attack straight at the monster. Rasen shuriken's sphere collided with dark energy, causing a colossal explosion. The energy spread throughout the hall, destroying everything in its path. When everything died down, Naruto sank heavily to his knees, his body trembling with exhaustion. The monster didn't move anymore. His body began to crumble, turning into ash. But his last words echoed in the hall. "Do you think you won? This is just the beginning. The true darkness is yet to come." Naruto stood up, his gaze focused. "So be it," he said, "but I'm ready for the next challenge." Kurama chuckled. "You did it, but we can't relax." This enemy was only an obstacle on the way. The real battle is yet to come. Naruto nodded and headed towards the exit of the hall. He knew that the eclipse of souls awaited him ahead, and perhaps the most difficult test of his life. But he was ready to continue, no matter the cost. Chapter 15. On the threshold of the eclipse of souls. Naruto stood at the edge of the ruined hall, where the darkness seemed to dissolve, leaving behind a dead silence. Ahead, behind a huge opening, a black abyss yawned, the entrance to the eclipse of souls. The air here was heavy, saturated with a strange energy that made his body tremble. He knew that this path would not be easy, but determination burned within him. "This place looks as if time and space itself are afraid of it," Kurama noted, his voice sounding wary. "Are you sure you're ready to go in there?" Naruto nodded, looking at the abyss in front of him. "I have no choice, Kurama," he replied. "If the answers are there, I have to find them. Otherwise, we will never be able to stop the enemy." "Then be careful," Kurama said, his voice deepening. "This place is not just dark. It's alive. It may try to manipulate your thoughts, your feelings." Naruto took a step forward, and darkness instantly engulfed him. The world around has changed. Now he was in an endless space, where there was neither earth nor sky, only darkness, pierced by a strange light flickering in the distance. "This is strange," he muttered, looking around. "I don't feel time. It's as if everything stands still here." "This is the essence of the eclipse of souls," said Kurama. "This place is designed to break your spirit. It will show you everything you fear and everything you never want to see." "Then let him show," Naruto said firmly. "I'm ready." As soon as he took the next step, the space around him began to change. Images began to appear around. At first, they were blurry silhouettes, but soon they became clearer. Naruto saw himself small, sitting alone on a bench in Konoha. People passed by, their gazes filled with hatred and contempt. "Do you remember this?" asked the voice that sounded right in his head. "This is your life. This is who you were." "Yes," Naruto replied, clenching his fists, "but that's not who I became." The image has changed. Now he saw his friends, Sasuke, Sakura, Hinata. They stood in front of him, but their eyes were empty, lifeless. "You will lose them," the voice continued. "You'll lose everything if you keep going." "No," Naruto said firmly, his chakra glowing brighter. "I've lost a lot, but I'll never let that happen again." The light around him flashed, and the images disappeared. The space became empty again, but Naruto felt that his ordeal was not over yet. He continued to walk forward, each step difficult. The darkness became thicker, and the air heavier. Naruto, stop, Kurama suddenly said. These are not just illusions. This place is trying to get into your consciousness. I know, he answered, gritting his teeth, but I can't let him break me. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of him, surrounded by whirlwinds of darkness. It was the enemy who threw him out of the rift. His eyes shone with malice, and his voice sounded like the roar of thunder. Did you really think you could pass? He said, taking a step forward. You underestimate the power of this place. It was created to destroy people like you. I'm not afraid of you, Naruto said, his chakra beginning to pulsate. If you think you can stop me, let's try. The creature laughed, and its laughter echoed throughout the space. You're funny, Uzumaki, but this game ends here. The battle has begun. The creature attacked first, its claws slicing through the air, creating blasts of dark energy. Naruto dodged, responding with attacks of his own. His Rasengan collided with the enemy's energy, creating a powerful explosion. You have become stronger, the enemy admitted, his voice full of mockery. But this is not enough. Maybe, Naruto replied, gathering chakra. But I'm not finished yet. He activated Sennin mode and mixed it with the energy he received at the temple. His body glowed, and his attacks became faster and more powerful. He created shadow clones that distracted the enemy, giving him the opportunity to strike. The battle lasted a long time. Each of Naruto's attacks weakened the enemy, but he himself lost strength. At some point, the enemy retreated. His body began to dissolve into darkness. Do you think you won? He asked, disappearing. This place is just the beginning. Real darkness awaits you ahead. Naruto was left standing alone. His breathing was heavy, but there was fire in his eyes. Let him wait, he said. I'm ready for what's ahead. The space changed again. A glowing portal appeared ahead. Naruto realized that this was the path to the next stage. He took a deep breath and walked towards it. Are you ready, Kurama? He asked. I'm always ready, Kurama replied. But remember, this is just the beginning. Naruto nodded and took a step forward, entering the portal, preparing for what awaited him beyond the Eclipse of Souls. Chapter 16. Guardian of the Faith. Naruto stepped into the portal, and a moment later the world around him changed. The space he found himself in was surprisingly calm and bright. There was no darkness here that he had expected. The sky sparkled with a soft golden light, and in the center of the space stood an altar surrounded by shining crystals. This place is completely different from anything I've seen before, Naruto said quietly, looking around. There is no darkness here, Kurama noted, but be careful. Even in such a place, danger can lurk. Naruto slowly approached the altar. As soon as he took a step forward, the light around him began to move, forming into a human figure. A man in a long robe appeared in front of him. His face was hidden by a hood, but a dazzling radiance was breaking through from under him. This creature radiated incredible calm and power. Welcome, Naruto Uzumaki, said the guardian. His voice was deep and soothing, as if he was speaking directly to your soul. I am the guardian of the faith, and I knew you would come. Guardian of the faith? Naruto repeated, looking at the figure. Do you want to stop me too? Or are you here to help? I am not your enemy, said the guardian, raising his hand. My task is to give you knowledge that will help you on your path. But you must understand that knowledge without faith means nothing. Naruto frowned. Faith? What do you mean? I'm here to find a way to defeat the creature that is trying to destroy this world. How can faith help me? The guardian came closer. His figure seemed to float above the ground. The force you encounter is fueled by more than just fear and doubt. It feeds on a lack of faith, in oneself, in others, in this world. The less faith, the stronger the enemy becomes. But I believe in myself, Naruto said firmly. I know I can stop him. The guardian smiled slightly. This is good, but this is not enough. Your faith in yourself is strong, but you can only defeat such an enemy if you become the embodiment of faith for others. People who believe in you strengthen your strength. The more people who see you as a light of hope, the more you will be able to face the darkness. Naruto froze, contemplating what he had heard. Are you saying that victory depends not only on me? What do I need others? Exactly, nodded the guardian. You're not alone, Naruto. Never have been and never will be. The people you protect already believe in you, but you must awaken their faith, make it even stronger. This will be your shield and sword in the battle against darkness. But how can I do this? Naruto asked, his voice sounding doubtful. Everyone I knew is in the past. I'm alone in this world. The guardian came closer. His light became even brighter. Faith is not about time and place. It is connected with hearts. Even those who have left continue to believe in you. You carry this faith within yourself. And now, in this world, there are those who also long for light. Find them. Show them that you can fight, and their faith will become your strength. Naruto sighed as his gaze went to the altar. That sounds complicated. I'm used to fighting on my own. I don't know how to inspire others. You've already done this, the guardian said softly. Every time you fought for your friends, for your village, for the world, you've already inspired them. Now you have to do it again. Not through words, but through actions. Every step you take, every decision you make can become a source of faith for others. So I need to find those who are ready to believe in me? Naruto asked, looking straight at the guardian. Yes, he nodded. But remember, faith is not just what you get. This is what you give. You must believe in those who believe in you. It's the connection that makes you stronger. Naruto felt his heart become lighter. The guardian's words resonated in his soul. He always knew that his strength was not only in himself, but also in those who supported him throughout his journey. Thank you, he said, raising his head. I understand. I will find those who can believe in me, and together we will stop the darkness. The guardian smiled. Then go, Naruto Uzumaki. Remember, faith is the most powerful force, and you already have it. The light around the guardian began to fade, and his figure disappeared into thin air. Naruto remained standing in front of the altar, feeling a new resolve within himself. What do you think, Kurama? Naruto asked as he watched the golden glow slowly disappearing around him. Kurama chuckled. This is the first time I've heard of faith becoming a weapon. But I have to admit that it makes sense. You have always been inspired by those who believed in you. If it works, then why not? Then let's move on, Naruto said, clenching his fists. If faith is the key, then I will find a way to use it to stop the darkness. Kurama chuckled. Well, Uzumaki, show the world why you are worth believing in. Chapter 17, News of Naruto. The light of the altar where the guardian of faith had disappeared suddenly flared up, illuminating the space around Naruto. He raised his hand to shield his eyes from the glare. It was more than just light. He felt the energy spreading far beyond this place, reaching every corner of the world. What's happening? Naruto asked, looking at the altar. His heart sank with anticipation. This is the guardian, Kurama replied, his voice sounding serious. He does what he promised. He awakens faith in you among people. Meanwhile, in different parts of the world, people hiding in cities, villages, and shelters suddenly felt a soft glow envelop their consciousness. The image of the guardian appeared before each of them. His voice sounded in everyone's head, regardless of the distance. People of this world, the guardian began, his voice calm but powerful. The time for choice is coming. The darkness seeks to destroy everything you love. She wants to destroy your world and replace it with emptiness, but hope is still alive. People looked at the image that appeared, stunned by his words. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. Their world has long been plunged into darkness, and they have lost all hope. Naruto Uzumaki, the legendary shinobi, has returned, the guardian continued. 1,000 years ago, he already saved the world, and today, he is again ready to fight for you. But his strength alone cannot defeat the darkness. He needs your faith. In Konoha, which was now difficult to recognize due to its destruction, people gathered in the main square. Their hearts were filled with a mixture of shock and hope. Among them was an old shinobi who remembered the legends of Naruto. This is true? He whispered. Is he really back? Other residents began to talk to each other. Some doubted, others felt a surge of energy that they had long forgotten. If this is true, then maybe we still have a chance, asked the young woman, holding the child in her arms. He was able to do it then. Why shouldn't he win now? In other villages, as in Konoha, People began to discuss what they had heard. The legends of Naruto were passed down from generation to generation, but many considered them to be a myth. Now they faced a reality that was hard to ignore. "He's only one person," someone said. "How can he defeat what destroys us?" "One, but with our faith he will become stronger," the other objected. "If we don't support him, then who will?" Naruto, still standing in front of the altar, felt something change. The air around him was filled with a strange energy, as if invisible threads connected him to every person in this world. He closed his eyes and felt their faith, albeit still weak, begin to flock to him. "They heard," Kurama said, his voice sounding almost proud. "It's all up to you now, Naruto. You must prove that you are worthy of their faith." "I know that," Naruto replied, opening his eyes. His gaze was firm. "I won't let them down. But first we need to get to the creature and put an end to this darkness." Meanwhile, the enemy, watching what was happening through his dark vortices, smiled, feeling how the faith of the people began to grow. His eyes flashed with an ominous light. "They think faith will save them," he said, his voice cold. "But faith is weakness. They believed in false hope, and I will destroy it, just like their world." He raised his hand, and more creatures of darkness appeared from the shadows. They began to gather in one place, preparing for the final blow. "If they want to fight," the enemy continued, "I will show them what real fear is. Let their faith be their curse." Naruto stepped forward, feeling the energy around him continue to intensify. His heart was filled with determination, but he knew that the most difficult battle lay ahead. "Are we ready, Kurama?" he asked, his voice sounding firm. "Ready as ever," Kurama replied, his chakra flaring within Naruto. "But remember, this battle is not only for the world, but also for their hearts. If you give them hope, they will respond with strength that can change everything." Naruto nodded, his fists clenching. "Then go ahead. I won't let the darkness win." Chapter 18. Test of Faith. The faith of the people began to penetrate into Naruto himself, filling his heart with warmth and determination. This feeling was new, but familiar. It reminded him of the time when the people of Konoha finally began to see him as a hero and not a monster. However, this time, everything was different. It was a force that could change the whole world. "Do you feel it?" Kurama asked, his voice tinged with pride. "These people believe in you. These are not just words or thoughts. This is energy that you can use." "Yes, I feel it," Naruto replied, clenching his fists. "But this is not enough. If the enemy decides to destroy this faith, everything may end." Kurama sighed. "He's already preparing something." "You must be prepared for the fact that it will hit the weakest point, the hearts of people." Meanwhile, in the thick of darkness, the enemy watched what was happening. His eyes glowed with malice, and his body shimmered, as if the very space around him was trying to get rid of him. "They began to believe in him," he said, his voice laced with contempt. "But faith is a fragile thing. Just shake it, and it will crumble like sand." He raised his hand, and dark whirlwinds appeared in front of him. At their center, images formed that made him smile. These were images of the past, filled with pain and fear. "If they want to believe in their hero," he continued, "I will show them that their faith is a lie. I will make them turn away from him." Naruto felt something was changing. The air around became heavy, and the silence was filled with oppressive energy. He stopped at the edge of a ruined field, feeling a sense of uneasiness growing within him. "It's moving," Kurama said. "Get ready. The enemy knows you are getting stronger, and he won't wait." "Let him come," Naruto replied, his gaze becoming focused. "I won't let him destroy what we have just begun to build." Suddenly, a huge rift opened in front of him. Images began to emerge from its depths. These were faces and events from Naruto's past. He saw his little self sitting alone, surrounded by contempt and hatred. Then his friends appeared, each of them in a moment of weakness, pain, or suffering. "What is this?" Naruto shouted, looking around. "It's an illusion," Kurama said. "He's trying to use your memories to break you. Don't give in." But the images became more and more real. People who believed in him also began to see these scenes. They had seen moments when Naruto suffered defeats, when his weaknesses came to light. Doubts began to arise in their hearts. At this time, Naruto felt the faith he had recently begun to feel begin to waver. He had to do something, otherwise all the energy that people started sending him would disappear. Naruto, Kurama said sharply, you have to remind them who you are. If you let these illusions take over, we will lose. Naruto clenched his fists as his eyes lit up with determination. I know I won't let this happen. He closed his eyes and focused on his chakra. His golden aura flared, illuminating the darkness around him. He extended his arms forward to gather the energy that still remained. Listen to me, he shouted, his voice echoing across the ruined field. These images are not me. These are my mistakes, my weaknesses, but they do not define who I am now. His words began to pierce the darkness. People who saw these illusions began to wonder. They remembered the legends of Naruto, his victories, his sacrifices for the sake of peace. Their hearts began to fill with a new faith, stronger than before. Yes, I made mistakes, Naruto continued. I suffered defeats, but I always got up, I always moved on, and I will do it again if you believe in me. His aura became brighter, and the illusions began to fade. People's faith returned and became even stronger. They realized that Naruto was not just a hero. He was a man who always fought no matter what. The enemy felt his plan crumbling. His anger began to rise and he screamed, causing more whirlwinds of darkness. But people's faith became a shield that protected Naruto from his attacks. You won't win, Naruto said, looking straight into the rift. You may show my weaknesses, but they make me stronger. And together with these people, I will stop you. The darkness began to recede, and the enemy felt his strength weakening. But he wasn't going to give up. A new, more insidious plan was born in the depths of his mind. Naruto wiped the sweat from his forehead. His breathing was heavy, but his heart filled with warmth. He felt how people's faith gave him new strength, which strengthened his spirit. We did it, Kurama, he said, looking at the sky, which began to clear of darkness. Yes, but this is not the end, Kurama replied. The enemy has retreated, but he is not defeated. He will be preparing a new blow, and you must be ready. Then we won't waste any time, Naruto said, his voice firm. With their faith and my determination, we will get through whatever he has in store. Chapter 19, The Final Strike. The air around Naruto was filled with energy. People who believed in him sent their support, even if they were far away. Their faith, like an invisible river, flowed towards him, filling him with strength. But he knew that this was only a temporary advantage. The enemy, watching what was happening, was already preparing his final, most destructive blow. Faith has strengthened you, Kurama said, his voice sounding tense. But don't be deceived, Naruto. This enemy is too smart. He won't give up until he destroys everything you're trying to protect. Naruto nodded, his gaze firm. I know that, but if he's going to deliver the final blow, I have to be ready. We can't let him destroy what we've just begun to build. Meanwhile, in the center of darkness, the enemy stood in his citadel, surrounded by whirlwinds of energy. His eyes burned with hatred, and his body seemed to become part of space itself. Vera, he said with contempt. She's as fragile as glass. One hit, and it will crumble. These people believed in him, but I will show them that he is just a weak man. They will turn their backs on him, and he will be left alone. He raised his hands, and huge creatures of darkness began to form around him, each one an embodiment of fear and doubt. These creatures did not just destroy, they absorbed faith, leaving emptiness behind them. Go! The enemy ordered, his voice sounding like thunder. Destroy everything they built! Show them that their hope is false! Naruto felt the air around him begin to change. The darkness was returning, but now it was different. Denser, more dangerous. He felt its waves heading towards different parts of the world, trying to destroy what people had begun to revive. He's attacking, Kurama said. These are not ordinary creatures of darkness. They feed on faith, absorbing it. If they reach people, everything could end. Then we won't let them do it, Naruto replied, his fists clenching. I won't let him break their faith. We must stop them before they strike. Naruto closed his eyes and concentrated. He felt his chakra connecting with the streams of energy that came from people. It was like a complex dance, where each step required extreme concentration. He knew he couldn't be everywhere at once, but he could direct his power to where it was most needed. People believe in me, but I need them to believe in themselves, he said. I have to inspire them so that they can resist themselves. Do you think this is possible? Kurama asked. You fought for them alone, and now you want them to rise up on their own? Yes, Naruto said firmly. Faith works both ways. If they see that they can fight together, it will become their strength. He rose above the destroyed field, his golden chakra glowing brighter than ever. Naruto concentrated, transmitting his message through the streams of energy that connected him to the people. Listen to me. His voice spread like thunder, reaching every corner of the world. I know that you are afraid. I know this enemy seems invincible, but you have already proven that you can believe. Now I ask you, believe not only in me, but also in yourself. His words echoed in the hearts of people. They began to rise, feeling the flame of power that had long been extinguished lighting up in their souls. Meanwhile, the creatures of darkness began to attack. They swept through villages and cities, trying to destroy everything that had been rebuilt. But this time the people did not retreat. They remembered Naruto's words and began to fight back. The shinobi, who had long ago lost faith in their powers, reactivated their techniques. Ordinary residents, armed with whatever they could, stood up to defend their homes. The darkness that had previously consumed their fears now began to recede before their resolve. Naruto felt the people's energy intensify. It flowed back to him, becoming even more powerful. He knew that this was their faith, not only in him, but also in themselves. It works, he said, his voice filled with joy. They started to fight. This is not the end, Kurama reminded. The enemy will see that his plan is collapsing, and he will strike harder. The enemy, watching what was happening through his vortices, felt his strength begin to weaken. His creatures could not absorb the people's faith because it had become too strong. This is impossible, he said, his voice full of rage. They should have broken. Their faith is an illusion. He raised his hands, and the darkness around him began to thicken. He concentrated all his power into one point, creating a weapon that was supposed to destroy everything. If they don't want to surrender, he said, then I will destroy them along with this world. Naruto felt this surge of energy. He knew that the enemy was preparing for the final blow. His heart was racing, but he was determined. We have to stop him, he said. Now or never. Then don't waste time, Kurama replied. This will be the most difficult battle of your life. But if you lose, it's all over. Naruto took a deep breath, his eyes lighting up with determination. He knew that he had not only the strength, but also the faith of those who were behind him. And with this faith, he was going to finish what he started. Chapter 20, The Final Battle. The air became heavy and tense. The space around was trembling, as if ready to explode. Naruto stood at the top of the ruined plain, looking at the dark cloud that was rapidly gathering over the horizon. There, at the center of this seething energy, was the enemy, ready to strike his final blow. This is it, Naruto, Kurama said, his voice sounding serious. The enemy is collecting everything he has. If he manages to complete his attack, it will be the end. Naruto nodded, clenching his fists. His golden chakra sparkled all around, and the faith of the people filled him with new energy. He felt their support, their hope. It wasn't just strength. It was a bond that couldn't be broken. Then we won't let him do it, Naruto said firmly. This is our chance, and I'm not going to miss it. On the horizon, the figure of the enemy became more and more ominous. His body, covered in darkness, seemed to merge with space. He raised his hands, and a huge sphere of pure energy began to form around him, a concentration of all the darkness, fear, and doubt that he had been collecting for centuries. Do you really think that faith will save you? Said the enemy, his voice echoing. Faith is an illusion. She is fragile and will disappear as soon as you see that your hero is powerless. His laugh was cold and harsh. He picked up the sphere, which began to grow, absorbing light and energy from around it. This is your last mistake, Uzumaki, the enemy continued. You won't save them. You won't even be able to save yourself. Naruto took a step forward. His eyes glowed with determination, and his body, surrounded by chakra, radiated warmth and light. "You're wrong," he said, his voice firm and confident. "It's not me who saves them. They are the ones saving me, and together we are stronger than you can imagine." His words echoed across the plain, and the people who were watching the battle from afar felt their hearts fill with power. They knew Naruto was fighting for them, and their faith grew stronger. The enemy rushed forward, throwing his dark sphere directly at Naruto. Its power was colossal, capable of destroying everything in its path. But Naruto didn't move. He extended his arms, concentrating all his strength. "Do you think I'll give up?" he shouted. "Then you didn't understand anything." His chakra flared brighter than ever. He created a huge Rasen shuriken, saturated with the energy of Kurama and the faith of people. It was more than just technology. This was their hope, gathered into one attack. "This is not only my strength," he said, looking at the enemy. "This is the strength of everyone who believes in me. This is the power of light that will destroy your darkness." Two energies collided. The explosion was so powerful that the earth shook and the sky was torn apart. Light and darkness fought each other, each trying to absorb the other. Naruto felt the pressure building. His body screamed in pain, but he didn't back down. He knew that if he gave up now, everything would be lost. "A little more, Naruto," Kurama said. "We are close, don't stop." "I'm not going to," he whispered, putting everything he had into the attack. The enemy felt his strength begin to fade. He screamed, trying to hold on to his energy, but the faith of the people that filled Naruto was stronger. Light began to penetrate the darkness, destroying it from the inside. "This is impossible!" the enemy shouted, his voice full of despair. "You can't win!" "We can," Naruto replied, "because we believe." With those words, his attack broke through the darkness. The light exploded, destroying the enemy's sphere and consuming him. The last cry of the enemy echoed across the plain, but then there was silence. When the light cleared, Naruto stood in the center of the field. His breathing was heavy, and his body was exhausted, but he knew he had won. The darkness has disappeared, and with it the threat to the world. "We did it, Kurama," he said, smiling. "We won." "Yes," Kurama replied, his voice sounding calm. "But this was not only our victory. This is a victory for everyone who believed in you." The people watching the battle began to applaud and rejoice. They felt that the world was their home again. The faith that helped Naruto win was now their strength. Naruto raised his head, looking at the clear sky. He knew there was still a lot of work ahead, but now he felt happy. He proved that faith can overcome even the greatest darkness. Chapter 21, A New Dawn. Naruto stood at the top of the hill, looking at the renewed world. The sunlight fell softly on the ground, illuminating the green plains and bright rivers. It seemed that everything had returned to harmony. But in the depths of his soul, there was a feeling that this was only a temporary lull. "How much time do we have before the next threat?" Naruto asked, looking at the horizon. Kurama chuckled. "You can't enjoy your victory for even a minute? This world has just been saved, and you are already thinking about the next enemy." "I just know it doesn't work that way," Naruto replied, his voice calm but focused. "Every time peace comes, a new threat begins to brew somewhere. It's inevitable." Down at the bottom of the hill, people began to gather to meet Naruto. They were grateful for his sacrifices and strength, for his persistence even in the face of unimaginable darkness. Many of them were ordinary citizens, but the faith they gained through Naruto made them stronger. "Naruto!" shouted one of them, a young guy with burning eyes. "You gave us hope back!" "What should we do next?" Naruto walked down the hill, his golden chakra no longer glowing, but there was still confidence in his walk. "Live," he said, looking at the crowd. "This world is now yours. I did everything to give you a chance. Now it's your turn to build a world without fear." The crowd began to talk animatedly, and there was agreement in their eyes. People began to discuss how they could rebuild the destroyed cities, join forces, and start a new life. Kurama spoke as the crowd began to disperse. "This is a good sign. They believe in themselves. Perhaps this time things will be different." "I hope so," Naruto replied quietly, "but I need to be ready. If something happens, I have to be strong." Kurama chuckled. "You're already strong enough, Naruto. But your power is no longer only in you. She is in those who are nearby. Several days passed. Naruto helped people rebuild villages and cities by teaching them the importance of staying united. His words were inspiring, and he felt his faith in the future continue to grow. But in these days of calm, he could not shake the feeling that somewhere in the shadows, a new threat was brewing. From time to time, he closed his eyes and felt a strange tension that emanated from the distant horizon. "Something is wrong, Kurama," he said one day while sitting by the fire. "Do you feel it too?" Kurama was silent for a moment before answering. "Yes, but it doesn't yet look like the darkness we just fought. This is something different, something old and forgotten." "So we need to be prepared," Naruto said. "I won't let this new threat take us by surprise." The next day, Naruto set out on a journey to explore the world that had changed. He wanted to understand what was left of the old lands, where new dangers could be hidden. Along the way, he met different people, heard stories about strange phenomena. Flickering faults, disappearing villages, strange shadows that appeared at sunset. "It seems the darkness has not completely disappeared," he said, reflecting on what he had heard. "She may come back." "Perhaps these are the remnants of the enemy's strength," Kurama suggested. "But we must be prepared for anything." At one of the stops, Naruto met an old man who lived in a remote hut at the foot of the mountain. His eyes were covered with a white veil, but he spoke confidently, as if he saw everything around him. "You're the same Naruto," he said as Naruto approached him. "The legend who returned to save the world." "Yes, it's me," Naruto answered, a little embarrassed. "But I'm not sure it's a legend. I just do what I have to do." "And that makes you a legend," the old man said with a smile. "But you didn't come here by accident. I feel like you have questions." Naruto nodded. "I feel that the darkness has not completely disappeared, that something new is being prepared somewhere. Do you know anything about this?" The elder thought for a moment and then said, "Darkness will always exist as long as light exists. But there is a power that was sealed centuries ago. She may awaken if the world begins to lose balance again." "What kind of power is this?" Naruto asked. "They call her the Seeker of Chaos," answered the elder. "It was sealed in ancient times, but its influence can still be felt. If he awakens, the world will be in even greater danger than before." Naruto left the elder, his thoughts occupied by what he had heard. He knew that the Chaos Seeker could become a new threat, but he also knew that he now had the power to fight any enemy. "We must be ready," he said, looking at the horizon, "because I won't let this world go dark again." Kurama chuckled. "You have already proven that you are capable of this. So come on, Naruto. This world believes in you." Chapter 22, The Path to the Chaos Seeker. With the first rays of dawn, Naruto began his journey. Behind him were restored villages, people who believed in him, and the world he helped restore. But ahead lay a new path, full of uncertainty and dangers. He knew he had to go because the world was not yet free of all threats. "Seeker of Chaos," Naruto said quietly, looking at the map the elder gave him. "If this power awakens, it could destroy everything we have restored." "Do you doubt that you can stop her?" Kurama asked, his voice filled with confidence. "You have already dealt with such challenges. It's just another enemy to destroy." Naruto shook his head. "This is not just an enemy, Kurama. This is something ancient, something that may be even stronger than what we have encountered before." Kurama chuckled. "Then we just have to get stronger." The path to the Seeker of Chaos began in forests that have long been overgrown with legends. Here the trees were so tall that their crowns hid the sky, and the air was filled with mysterious whispers. Naruto walked forward, his eyes carefully following every movement. "This place is strange," he said. "It feels like someone is watching us." "Because it is," Kurama replied. "These forests are imbued with ancient energy. They are alive. If we're here, it means they know why we came." Suddenly, a thick fog appeared in front of Naruto. Its density was such that he could barely see his own hands. "Be on your guard," Kurama warned. "It could be an illusion or something worse." The fog parted, revealing a view of the old ruins. These stone structures were covered with moss, but their massive walls still retained the strength of the past. In the center of the ruins stood an altar on which a faint light flickered. This place is similar to what the old man described, Naruto said, coming closer. Perhaps this is one of the keys to awakening the Seeker of Chaos. But as soon as he took a step forward, the ground shook. Whirlwinds of darkness erupted from under the altar and began to form a huge figure. It was a creature made of shadows, its eyes glowing red. You dared to disturb the Seeker's sanctuary, the creature said, its voice deep and ominous. Leave before it's too late. I won't leave, Naruto answered firmly, his chakra beginning to glow with a golden light. If this place is connected to the Seeker, I must find out the truth. The creature growled and lunged at him. Naruto dodged by creating several shadow clones. He knew that this enemy was not just a defender of the ruins, but part of the power he sought. This is just the beginning, Kurama said. Show him what you can do. Naruto formed a Rasen shuriken and threw it at the creature. The explosion illuminated the ruins, and for a moment, the darkness disappeared. But the creature recovered again. Its figure became even larger. You don't understand what you're dealing with, it said. The Seeker's darkness cannot be destroyed. Naruto concentrated, his eyes blazing with determination. He realized that the power he had might not be enough. He must use not only his chakra, but also the power of faith, which helped him win earlier. Kurama, I want to try something new, he said. You are sure? Kurama asked. It could be risky. We have no choice, Naruto replied. If I don't try, we'll never know. Naruto closed his eyes and focused on the flow of energy that connected him to the people. He felt their faith, their hope. He absorbed this power and channeled it into his attack. His body glowed brighter than ever. This is the end, he said, creating a new, enhanced Rasengan filled with the energy of faith. He rushed forward and struck straight at the creature's heart. The explosion was so powerful that it destroyed the altar and destroyed the darkness. The creature screamed and fell apart, leaving only silence behind. When everything was quiet, Naruto walked up to the destroyed altar. Among the rubble, he found an ancient artifact, a sphere that emitted a faint light. This must be a piece of the Seeker, he said, picking it up. Perhaps this is what we are looking for. Be careful, Kurama warned. This thing is saturated with darkness. She can be dangerous. Naruto nodded, putting the sphere away in his bag. This is just the beginning. If we want to stop the Seeker, we need to find all of its parts and figure out how to seal it away. He left the ruins, feeling that his journey was just beginning. Now he knew that the Seeker of Chaos was not just a myth. This is a real threat that could destroy everything he protected. We can handle it, Kurama, he said, looking at the horizon. With the faith of the people and our strength, we will stop him. Kurama chuckled. Of course we can handle it. You are Naruto Uzumaki. Chapter 23, Power in the Shadows. The sphere in Naruto's hands emitted a faint but constant glow. Its surface was smooth, with incomprehensible symbols that seemed alive, as if moving under his fingers. Inside the sphere, he felt a strange energy, reminiscent of the darkness he had already encountered. This thing... It's alive, Naruto muttered, clutching the artifact tighter. I don't understand how something like that could be connected to the Seeker of Chaos. It's not just an artifact, Kurama replied. It's part of his essence. Do you feel how she resists? Her energy is trying to merge with you to weaken your power. Naruto frowned as he put the sphere away in his bag. So you need to keep her under control. But why is it so important? And what happens if we find the remaining pieces? Perhaps it is connected with his sealing or awakening, Kurama suggested. It's both a key and a weapon. But if it falls into the wrong hands, the consequences could be catastrophic. Naruto's journey continued. He crossed heathlands and forests, climbing mountains and descending into valleys. Every step he took brought him closer to the next trace left by the ancient force. But every day he felt the energy of the sphere becoming stronger, as if it was responding to his actions. It looks like a trap, he said, looking at the map. The closer we get to the solution, the more this thing wants to awaken the Seeker. That could be her goal, Kurama replied. But if you control it, we have a chance to use it against him. On the third day of his journey, Naruto reached an abandoned temple. This temple was older than anything he had seen before. Its columns were destroyed and its walls were covered with symbols identical to those on the sphere. This place looks like a storage facility, he said, looking around. Perhaps we will find something important here. As soon as he stepped inside, the sphere began to glow brighter. Her energy filled the hall, and the symbols on the walls began to move, as if responding to her presence. Something's going on, Naruto said, tense. This place is waking up. Suddenly, the air became thick, and the space around began to change. 3 figures made of light and dark appeared in front of Naruto. Their faces were hidden, but their voices were clear. Why did you bring the seeker piece here? Asked the first figure. Do you want to wake him up? Added the second. Or are you trying to destroy him? Finished the third. Naruto raised his head, his gaze firm. I want to stop the seeker before he can destroy this world. If you know something about him, tell me. The figures exchanged glances, their outlines becoming brighter. You are naive, said the first figure. The seeker doesn't just destroy worlds. He changes them. He absorbs the weak to create the strong. It was created to maintain balance, added the second. But his power is out of control. Now he is the embodiment of chaos, finished the third. And every part of his being brings his return closer. Naruto felt a chill run down his spine. If this is so, then why weren't these parts destroyed earlier? Why do they still exist? They are connected with its ceiling, the first figure explained. To destroy it completely, all parts must be collected. But it's a risk, added the second. If they fall into the wrong hands, the seeker may awaken earlier. You chose a dangerous path, finished the third. But you have to finish what you started. Find the remaining pieces, but be prepared to face what lies behind these symbols. The light around the figures went out, and the hall fell silent again. Naruto exhaled heavily, feeling his hands shaking. They're right, Kurama, he said. This path is dangerous, but we have no choice. We must find the remaining parts to destroy the seeker. It's crazy, but I agree, Kurama replied. If we stop, he will find a way to come back. We must go to the end. After leaving the temple, Naruto felt the energy of the sphere become calmer, as if it recognized his purpose. But at the same time, he felt that someone or something was watching him from afar. We are not alone, he said, looking around. There is someone else who knows about the seeker. These could be his supporters, Kurama suggested. Or those who want to use its power for their own purposes. Then we have to be faster, Naruto said, quickening his pace. Because if they find the parts before we do, everything will be lost. Naruto continued walking, his resolve growing stronger. He knew that the path would be difficult, but he also knew that the world depended on his success. He held the first piece of the puzzle in his hands, and he vowed that he would not allow darkness to consume this world again. Chapter 24. Battle for Time. Naruto crossed the desert plains, focusing on the faint light that the sphere emitted. Its flickering intensified as it approached the next hold, but each step was accompanied by a feeling of anxiety. He knew that with every movement he not only got closer to his goal, but also attracted the attention of those who were also hunting for the Chaos Seeker parts. This place is closer than I thought, Naruto said, looking at the shimmering horizon. The sphere reacts more and more strongly. That's not necessarily a good thing, Kurama replied. If it gets stronger, that means others can feel it too. We're not the only ones coming for Seeker parts. Then you need to be faster, Naruto said firmly. If they get ahead of us, everything will be lost. Soon he came to a ruined canyon. Its walls were covered with symbols similar to those he had seen in the temple. The sphere in his hands began to vibrate, emitting a bright light that illuminated the narrow paths. It's here, Naruto said. I feel an energy similar to that in the temple. He took a step forward but suddenly stopped. The air around him became tense, and 3 figures stepped out of the shadows. These were people in dark cloaks. Their faces were hidden by masks, and their bodies were surrounded by a strange, viscous chakra. Naruto Uzumaki, one of them said, his voice low and ominous. Did you really think you could get through here unnoticed? Who are you? Naruto asked, his gaze becoming sharp. What do you want? We are those who watch, answered the second figure. We serve the Seeker. You awakened him with your actions, and now he is calling us. Give up the sphere, and perhaps we will spare you. Naruto grinned as his chakra began to flare with a golden light. Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't give it to you. If you serve the Seeker, then you want to awaken him, and I'm here to prevent that from happening. The third figure took a step forward, her voice filled with contempt. You don't understand who you're dealing with. The Seeker is not evil. He is order. Your fight against him is useless. If that's what you think, then let's find out right now, Naruto said, getting into a fighting stance. The battle began suddenly. Three figures attacked at the same time. Their chakra was strange and cold, as if it was sucking heat from the air. Naruto dodged the first strike, creating several shadow clones that rushed forward to distract his opponents. They are strong, Kurama said. Their power comes from the very darkness of the Seeker. Be careful. I noticed, Naruto replied, dodging another attack. He formed a Rasengan and rushed at one of the enemies, but his blow collided with a barrier that absorbed the energy. Your chakra is useless against us, said the first enemy. We are part of the darkness, and your power only feeds us. Naruto frowned, his mind racing. He knew that regular attacks wouldn't help. He needed to use the power that he gained through the faith of people. He closed his eyes, focusing on the connection that connected him to the world. Are you going to try this? Kurama asked. It's risky. We have no choice, Naruto replied. If I don't stop them now, they'll get to the next part. His chakra flared, but now it was mixed with bright, warm energy. He felt the faith of people fill him, and this gave him new strength. What is this? Asked one of the enemies, retreating. His chakra has changed. Naruto created a new Rasen Shuriken, infused with light. Its energy pulsed, illuminating the canyon. This is a power that does not belong to darkness, Naruto said. This is the power of light and faith. He rushed forward, his attack breaking through the enemy's barrier and throwing him back. The second enemy tried to attack, but Naruto dodged and hit him with a stream of chakra that made him disappear in a vortex of light. The remaining figure retreated, its voice trembling. Do you think you won? This is just the beginning. The Seeker is already awakening, and there's nothing you can do. When the enemies disappeared, Naruto approached the center of the canyon where the second artifact was located. It was another sphere, but its energy was different, calmer, but still saturated with darkness. Here it is, Naruto said, picking up the sphere. Another piece of the puzzle. You did it, but they are right, Kurama said. Each part brings closer the awakening of the Seeker. Are you ready for what's next? Naruto looked at the shimmering orb, his gaze set. I'm ready. Because if I stop now, everything will be lost. Chapter 25. On the Edge of Awakening. Naruto walked across the endless plains, holding both spheres in his hands. Their energy pulsed, as if there was an invisible connection between them. One of them emitted light, the other absorbed it. This opposite interaction was alarming. They're trying to connect, Kurama said, observing their behavior through Naruto. Their energy is synchronized. If we continue to assemble the pieces, they may become so powerful that you cannot control them. I can feel it, Naruto replied, his gaze focused. But we have no other choice. If we stop, the enemies will finish what they started, and then the world will definitely end. He remembered the words of the figure from the canyon. The Seeker is already awakening. These words echoed in his head, reminding him that there was little time left. He needed to find answers, not only to collect all the pieces, but also to figure out how to prevent the Seeker from returning. In the evening, he stopped at the foot of an old mountain that looked like a frozen volcano. Its slopes were covered with cracks, and a faint vibration was felt in the air. Naruto lit a small fire and placed the spheres nearby. They continued to glow, but seemed to calm down in his presence. What do you think, Kurama? He asked, looking at the flickering light. Is there a way to use their power to stop the Seeker rather than awaken him? If I knew for sure, I would have already told you, Kurama replied, his voice thoughtful. These spheres are more than just artifacts. They are imbued with the very essence of the Seeker. Perhaps their power is related to how he was sealed. Naruto frowned as he thought about what he had heard. If they are related to sealing it, then perhaps they can be used to create a new barrier? Something that will hold him forever. It's possible, Kurama agreed. But this requires more knowledge. There must be a record somewhere of how they did it the first time. The next morning, Naruto began his climb to the top of the mountain. His intuition told him that there might be something important here. Each step was difficult, as the air became denser and the pressure increased. The higher he rose, the stronger the feeling became that the mountain was saturated with ancient energy. This place, it looks like a storage facility, he said, stopping at the entrance to the cave. Maybe we'll find answers here. Be careful, Kurama warned. If there is anything important here, it will be protected. Inside, the cave was wide, with high ceilings and walls covered in old symbols. Naruto turned on the light using his chakra, revealing a view of an altar surrounded by stone statues. This is similar to what we saw before, he said, approaching the altar. But there's something different here. On the altar lay a small stone tablet covered with text in an ancient language. When Naruto touched it, the text began to glow, and streams of light and darkness began to burst out of the walls. What did you do? Kurama asked. This place is waking up. Projections of 3 figures similar to those he had seen before appeared in front of Naruto. Their faces remained hidden, but their voices sounded clear. You brought 2 parts of the Seeker, said the first figure. You are bringing his awakening closer. But you also bring the truth closer, added the second, and now you must make a choice. Will you continue on your way? Asked the third. Or will you leave everything to prevent a catastrophe? Naruto clenched his fists, his voice sounding firm. If I stop, someone else will continue. I have to finish this myself. The figures froze, then one of them said, Then listen. The power of the orbs can be used to seal the Seeker, but only if you have the power to control them. Each part brings chaos within itself. The more pieces you collect, the stronger he will become. If you lose control, the second figure added, the Seeker will consume you and the darkness will return. But if you maintain contact with the world, the third finished, the light will win. Your path is difficult, but you are not alone. The light faded and the figures disappeared. A new artifact appeared on the altar, the third sphere. It was larger than the first 2 and radiated both light and darkness. That's another part, Naruto said, picking it up. Now we have 3. And with every step, the Seeker gets closer, Kurama reminded. You heard them. Connection with the world is the key. If you lose her, it's over. Naruto nodded, his gaze focused. Then I must be strong. For myself and for those who believe in me. As he left the cave, he felt the energy of the spheres begin to synchronize. Their pulsation intensified, and he realized that there was even less time left than he thought. In the distance, he sensed a familiar chakra. His opponents were not far behind, and now they were closer than ever. They are coming for us, he said. We need to get ahead of them. Are you ready for a new battle? Kurama asked, his voice wary. Ready, Naruto replied, because everything depends on it. Chapter 26, Race Against Time. Naruto continued on his way, feeling the 3 spheres secured in his bag emit increasingly stronger energy. Their pulsation resembled a heartbeat, and each wave of energy responded to his body with a slight trembling. He knew that his opponents were getting closer every minute. The sphere became a magnet for darkness. These things are getting stronger, he said, making his way through the dense forest. I feel like they are trying to get the better of me. That's not surprising, Kurama replied. Each part is a piece of the Seeker. The more you collect, the stronger their influence, but you can handle it. Bye. Bye, Naruto repeated, his gaze focused. But I can't afford to lose control. If this happens, the Seeker will awaken through me. The road ahead became increasingly difficult. The forest was thickening, the sun hardly penetrated the treetops, and the air was thick and viscous. Naruto moved quickly, using his shinobi skills to hide from potential pursuers. But he knew they were close. They're coming for us, he said, pausing for a moment to catch his breath. I can feel their chakra. They are stronger than they were last time. It was expected, Kurama said. The spheres strengthen not only you, but also them. The closer you are to the goal, the stronger the resistance will be. So we need to be faster, Naruto replied, starting to move again. He reached a small valley where the trees parted to reveal a view of the ruined city. This place looked abandoned for many centuries. Its streets were covered in cracks, buildings were crumbling, and the air was filled with a strange silence. It's here, Naruto said, feeling the spheres begin to pulsate more intensely. The next part should be around here somewhere. Be careful, Kurama warned. This place looks like a trap. If your enemies are really nearby, they will attack here. Naruto slowly made his way through the ruins, his eyes searching for anything that could indicate the location of the fourth part. Suddenly, he noticed a small altar in the center of the city, surrounded by collapsed columns. He headed there, but his steps were interrupted by familiar voices. You came too late, Naruto, said a deep voice. 3 figures emerged from the shadows of the ruins, the same ones that tried to stop him in the canyon. Those who watch, Naruto said, clenching his fists. You won't stop me. You don't even know what you're doing, one of the figures said, her voice dripping with contempt. You are gathering together what should have remained divided. You lead the seeker to awakening. So what if so? Naruto replied, his voice firm. I won't let him come back, and you won't be able to use his power either. You think you are in control of the situation, answered the third figure. But you've already lost. The spheres control you. They are part of the seeker, and you are only his temporary shell. The figures attacked simultaneously, their movements fast and coordinated. Naruto managed to dodge, creating several shadow clones. His hands quickly began to form a Rasengan, which he threw at the nearest opponent. The blow was accurate, but the enemy absorbed the energy as if it did not exist. You think you can defeat us with conventional techniques? Asked one of the enemies, his voice sounding mocking. We are connected with the Seeker. Your power is useless. Naruto dodged the second enemy's attack while jumping back. His breathing quickened. He felt that the opponents had become stronger, their chakra saturated with the same darkness that emanated from the spheres. Kurama, their power has increased, he said, dodging another blow. I need something else. Use what you have already mastered, Kurama replied. I believe. It is the only thing that can withstand the darkness. Naruto concentrated as his chakra began to glow with a golden light. He felt connected to people who believed in him. Their energy filled him, and he created a new, enhanced Rasen Shuriken that glowed with light. This power is not only mine, Naruto said, throwing an attack at the nearest enemy. This is the strength of all who believe in the light. The blow was powerful, its energy breaking through the enemy's defenses, forcing him to retreat. The second enemy tried to attack from behind, but Naruto managed to dodge and struck back, which knocked him aside. They're starting to lose control, Kurama said. Keep up the pace. They don't have your connection to the world. The last opponent remained standing, his figure trembling as if he could not maintain his form. You don't know what you're doing, he said, his voice weak. You will bring chaos to this world. I'll stop the chaos, Naruto replied, his gaze focused. Even if I have to destroy every part of the Seeker. After his victory, Naruto walked up to the altar. On its top lay the fourth sphere. It was larger and darker than the previous ones, its energy almost overwhelming. But Naruto knew he had to take it. This is another part, he said, picking up the sphere. Now we have 4. You're getting closer to your goal, Kurama replied. But remember, with every step you take, you get closer to losing control. Naruto looked at the shimmering orbs, his gaze determined. Then I must become even stronger. And I will find a way to keep them under control.